All right, so I think that is all of our guests. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hideout, episode 15. Wow, it's been 15 episodes. This has been flying by. Today we have a really great episode. We have a ton of guests on this one, so I'm super excited that we have everyone. I'll go through a quick introduction of everyone and the space, and then everybody can introduce themselves. Um, but so we have myself. I'm Nick Frontera. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the founders of Paul Entertainment and the project lead for Satoshiverse. We have our very own Santi here, who will be helping us, think through the different architectural elements of the Satoshiverse and some of the things that we're doing within our game. But Santi can go a little bit more into his background. We also are honored to have Krista Kim here, who I'm sure will have some awesome insight on her experiences in the space and some of the amazing stuff that she's done with architecture and NFTs and some record-breaking sales. And then we have two awesome studios here, or actually three, I'm sorry, three awesome studios here who have really been key in the, I'd say, early development of architectural designs within the decentralized metaverse space. We have Polygonal Minds, Voxel Architects, and Low Poly Models. And I'm lucky enough to say that I've known all of them for quite a long time and gotten to do some stuff with them in the past. So really excited for the insights that they're going to bring. But why don't we take a moment for everyone to introduce themselves and what they're working on, and then we'll jump into a great agenda of questions for a discussion of metaverse architecture, which I think is going to be a great one. So why don't we start with you, Krista? Nice to see you, and tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here. I have, I created the Mars House in 2021. That was the first NFT house that was sold in history. So that sort of opened up the possibilities of selling, digital real estate assets for the metaverse, and I'm excited to see all the incredible developments in the space. In particular, I did start a company called Zero.xyz, and I felt that there are a lot of beautiful spaces in the metaverse, and yet we are lacking storytelling. So I think the next development in terms of metaverse production and experiences will be the valuable experiences that we share, the immersive storytelling in these spaces, and I'd like to talk more about that.
Amazing. No, it's I'm excited to get into those topics. I agree. I think, I got involved in this space early days, Decentraland, and for me it was just fun to build stuff. But I think the next evolution is exactly what you're talking about, creating these immersive experiences with stories, and we'll definitely want to get into that. Santi, why don't you introduce yourself and some of the work that you've done both before we started working on Satoshiverse and what we've been doing from an architectural perspective on Satoshiverse.
Sure. And so for you guys, for the people that don't know me, I'm the art director for Satoshiverse. And my background is actually in architecture, so I think this is perfect. This space is perfect for me. And originally, I started creating basically architecture models for the industry, and that translated into VR, and that translated into games in general, and here we are creating the Satoshiverse. For the Satoshiverse game, so for the Battle of the Outskirts, we really wanted to create a world that felt alive and that actually felt like a place that could actually exist, and so we created an entire system that we can talk about a little bit later, for it to feel like an actual city and a place that could happen. So I don't want to go too much into that before everyone else.
No, thanks for the quick introduction. I'm sure we'll get into it more. Sam, why don't you introduce yourself and your studio?
Sure. Hey guys, happy to be here for everybody. Happy New Year for the late ones. Yeah, I'm Toxem. I'm the founder of Polygon Mine. We've been working. Polygon Mine is almost 9 years old at this point. We've been working in Decentraland since late 2018, and then we've been developing a lot of stuff. We've been building galleries. We've been building games. We've been building the Mega Cube. We've been building I think our count is around over 4,000 lands in Decentraland so far. And we also expanded into Sandbox, and now we're working on different places. We make cool stuff all around. That's what we say.
Yeah, I'll say personally, I'm excited to have you on. You guys built one of your builds right next to one of our early builds, the Tomb Chaser, which was fun. I definitely enjoyed that. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about some of the gamification you guys have been doing with your builds. All right, so how about Yasmin? Can you please introduce yourself and talk about the work you're doing at Voxel Architects?
Hi, hello all. It's really great to be here. Thank you for having us. So my name is Yasmina San, and I'm an architect at Voxel Architects. I'm involved in several stages of the design process, from concept to 3D modeling. And actually, I'm trained as an architect in real life. And for 6 years, I've worked for big architecture offices, both local and international, with a great focus on visualization, rendering, 3D modeling. So naturally, it was a smooth transition to the metaverse, since it involves using the same tools and the same way of thinking. So prior to joining Voxel Architects, I was fortunate to work on amazing real-life projects, such as a prototype of a Martian city in Dubai. And it was this kind of project that made me redefine the way I see myself as an architect, since this is the kind of project you would see in the metaverse. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to meeting all the speakers and discussing all these topics about architecture. And probably for the ones of you who don't know, Voxel Architects is a metaverse native digital architecture studio, and we design and build virtual experiences, and we're founded in 2020.
Amazing, and I'm excited to hear more about the city in Dubai. That sounds super interesting. So maybe we can get into that a little bit more as well. And then we have Catherine from Low Poly Models. Can you talk to us, for those of us who don't know you, about what you guys have been up to and some of the cool stuff that you guys did in Decentraland early on?
Hey, I'm KJ. So good to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. So I'm here on behalf of the Poly Models World, and we've been building stuff in Decentraland since about 2019. And it's just been the most incredible experience of really challenging what is architecture, since that's like the topic of discussion for today, and what needs to be there, what doesn't need to be there, and also a whole load of other stuff that goes along with it, like fashion, games, and experiences. And we're working on some really, really exciting stuff at the moment that I wish I could tell you about, but I can't. But we're also working on, we've done a lot of 3D scanning lately, which has been really interesting, doing some AR, and just delving into a lot of building and having fun. And really excited to be here today and discuss more metaverse architecture. So thank you.
Amazing. And I remember, when I jumped into Decentraland for the first time and didn't know anything about 3D modeling or placing things on land, you were always the one who was there to help out. So really appreciate that. It definitely inspired a lot of the path we ended up taking with Satoshiverse. And you also did those awesome, Jose Delbo wearables the first round. So that was awesome too. So I'm excited to have you here and dive into these topics with you. Last but certainly not least, our host for today will be Spencer. Spencer, if you want to take a quick moment to introduce yourself, and then we can dive into the questions.
Hey everyone. Yeah, my name is Spencer Vogel. I've been working with Apollo for about a year and a half now. I'm doing everything on the business development and business and strategy side of things. So I'm going to be hosting today. So I'm going to ask some questions that are to everyone in the group that we'll just do panel style, and then a few questions that'll be individually to each of you as well. So the first question I'll open up to everyone, and I'll have everyone can just jump in and whenever they want, or I can also call on people as well. So the first question is, what are the biggest challenges with designing architecture for the metaverse space?
Well, I think I can start with this. So I think architecture is a functional art, and because of this, a basic rule that it has to accomplish to create spaces is that it has to accomplish to create spaces that are habitable, but that have a narrative or a story at the same time. I think that the metaverse is not an exception to this rule, which is why it's fundamental to understand that the spaces that we create for the metaverse still has to use strategies to incentivize human interaction, like the creation of communities and commerce and all these complex webs of interactions that we take for granted in the contemporary urban setting, right? So I think all these things are crucial to make spaces pleasant and habitable. In other words, the metaverse and the urban design have a ton of complexities that are super similar. At the end of the day, both want to accomplish the same thing, which is to create spaces for people to coexist and have it, and also to tell stories, which is a fantastic point. What that Krista was like Krista was saying. On the other hand, we have to be able to distance ourselves from the limitations that the real world brings. I think one of the things that we are still doing in a ton of spaces is that we end up having the same rules like gravity and areas and all these things that limit us, at least creatively in the real world. And part of the reasons why I don't practice architecture in the traditional sense anymore is because the real world is full of limitations, like I was saying, like gravity or budget or city norms, which are part of the reasons why architecture is so beautiful in the real world as well. But that at the end of the day also tame creativity in a sense. And I think we have a super cool blank page in front of us that architects from the past, like I don't know, Buckminster Fuller or Archigram or even Frank Lloyd Wright. If you haven't checked Archigram, you guys have to definitely check them out. I think they would be the people that would take the most advantage of the metaverse for sure. I think all of them dreamt about having this freedom and on design, and I think we finally have like this world only limited by the realm of creativity, and it's super exciting to explore. So I think just to conclude, not to continue talking too much, the big challenge of architecture in the metaverse is to balance between the functional and the fantastical. It's sort of to understand what it can take from history and from all these millennia of architecture that humans have accomplished, and at the same time sort of understand what they leave behind in order to let creativity loose.
If I may add to Santi, I actually agree with everything he's saying. I mean, I think it really is truly a great opportunity in the metaverse to truly create purely out of the imagination. But there are limitations because of polycount, because of the different platforms that are available to us right now. I'm always looking toward the future of the metaverse as an open metaverse. And so, building on Unreal Engine or Unity, the highest fidelity graphics, so that you can really have this fully realistic, immersive experience. And yet, the platforms are very limited. For example, with Unreal Engine, you really don't have any viable options to actually have an Unreal Engine file in the open metaverse yet. That technology is now being built on platforms such as Lamina One, that is now under construction. So the current options are like, pixel streaming, which is extremely expensive. You're paying $3 per head per visitor per hour to host an Unreal Engine metaverse creation. And even then, you have wonderful platforms like Spatial, which I love, which has recently integrated Unity into the Unity Creators Kit into their platform, and yet the limitations are body count, like how many people can you fit at one time as your Ready Player Me avatars in one instance. So there are real technological limitations along the way, and as creatives, you really have to be very resourceful and very creative in tackling and dealing with those limitations. But I would say that within the next couple of years, we are going to see incredible advancements in the possibility of creating Unreal Engine, photorealistic, immersive environments that supports multiplayers. And they basically announced, Epic Games has announced that they're actually now exploring the development of open source code for their software. So these are all great developments, and open metaverse is the future.
I totally agree. Maybe my response was a little bit naive, but it's also super hopeful. I agree with you. I think right now we have a ton of technical limitations, and part of the things that we have to create as a community is exactly what you're saying, sort of to understand how we can create interoperability and how we can sort of work together in order to create new rules to sort of create a standard so we can sort of start connecting the different things that we are creating. But I totally agree that right now, at least, we have a ton of limitations, and you're right, there's a ton of advancements like things like pixel streaming, but I agree with everything. It's expensive, is something that we have to sort of keep improving on, and but I do think that the future seems like a realm full of possibilities, and sort of as the computational I don't know, infrastructure continues to grow and become more powerful. I do believe that we're going to end up having something, of course, not free of limitations, but something a little bit at least broader and a little bit less limited that right now.
Hi, I just joined. I'm so sorry I've been a bit late. I'm Ryan. I'm the founder of OnCyber, and it's really interesting that the conversation is shifting towards like the open metaverse. And I heard the names of like a few engines, Unreal, Unity. I personally, and like I think there's a whole movement of people in the space that like don't think that the open metaverse should ever be built on top of like proprietary engines. And there's a whole movement of people that are building on top of free open source software. Like, I think we're one of them. One of them, Hyperfy is one of them. Webaverse is one of them. And I think that the fact that we have to get back to thinking, what does it mean to have an open metaverse? I think it's something that doesn't exclude anyone, that doesn't put too much trust in the hands of one type of organization or engine or tech. And I think that at the platform level, if a platform is built on top of a proprietary engine, I doubt that it can be that open or truly ever decentralized if the base foundation is not in the platform's control / in the public benefits control. I don't see how any of that could ever really amount to something that's truly decentralized and open. I think that right now there's true a lot of limitations on the web, but I think it's our best type of our best bets to have something that's truly open. There's a bunch of people building interoperable assets like GLBs, the same way the web was built before, where we decided to go with HTML. There's a bunch of people building on top of GLBs, a bunch of different platforms where if you ever weren't happy with how the platform was going, you could take all your assets, which is the principle of Web3, be able to take all your assets, 3D and non 3D, to another platform that just is kind of a reader at the end of the day. So on Cyber today is kind of a reader. Like you can go and like put a bunch of assets, put a GL, like the whole architecture is built on top of free open source softwares and the principle of GLBs. And if you're ever pissed about on Cyber or like your doesn't do whatever you want for it, like there's many different platforms that take the same type of data. So I do think that in order to be able to call any type of platform part of an open metaverse, like there needs to be some focus on replaceability and the fact that people can replace, and the fact that people can go somewhere else without ever being in the control of one bigger corporation or anything like that. So I love what Unreal and Unity are doing. The tech is amazing and all, but if we're in Web3, it's for certain reasons. And I think that just like giving too much power to like big corporations is definitely not the reason why we joined. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
It's really great meeting you, Rand. I really love on Cyber actually, and I love the community and all of the builds there. They're really, really amazing. I do have a question for you though, because I get a lot of brands coming to me and asking me for advice on how to approach the metaverse, especially some retailers. And I find that I think that right now, ever since the FTX scandal, it seems like the brands are definitely entering into Web3, and they're very interested in the metaverse and how to create, like like a spatialized e-commerce space. That, but ideally it should be something that's interoperable, right? So it's not like a walled garden, or at least try, right? But right now the landscape is tricky because there are so many proprietary platforms. But on on your platform, on Cyber, how is that roadmap coming along in terms of allowing for like NFT assets to be spatialized and purchased in a spatialized context, in on the platform? Is that something that you're also building?
That's super interesting. Thanks and great meeting you as well. I've been a big fan of yours for a while. Yeah, I mean, like we've done a few experiments. I think the biggest and most famous one is the one we did with Artifact and Rimowa, where there was a public sale of physical luggages in an on cyberspace, so in an immersive setting, where people bought for like $3.5 million of luggages in the span of a few hours in an immersive space. So the experience was pretty amazing. Rimowa, which is huge luggage brand, went and designed a space with Artifact in tandem with Artifact that was really like transmitting the brand image that they would want to transmit. And I think the conversation I've had with big luxury people and big people in fashion is always like they spend so much of their budget trying to optimize their stores to make sure that when people enter the Rimowa store, people feel the Rimowa brand and get it transmitted. But online, there's no transmission at all. If anything, like people that go buy online are either drawn in by like celebrities, etc. So the only type of like brand transmission that is done is like what kind of celebrity likes my brand, or like is wearing my clothes, or has these luggages. But like the websites all look the same, and like the website from Rimowa and the website from Tumi and the website from Gucci and Louis Vuitton, they all look very similar apart from the images and the content that is displayed. So when a big brand comes and they directly see what kind of value add there can be in like doing stuff immersively. Of course, it's not going to replace fast shopping tomorrow, but we've seen it that for very specific drops, specifically like this one with Rimowa, like it went really, really well. Like the management team was super happy about it. It became a case study within LVMH, like what immersive spaces can do for branding purposes. And I think we're going to see much, much more of this soon. And then as far as like NFT commerce goes, like yeah, you can already buy whatever is listed on OpenSea, LooksRare, XYD2, like a bunch of different platforms directly and on Cyber if they're listed anywhere there. And we're currently building a new way to do immersive shopping, which is like really, really cool. Like it's right now the experience, like when you go and want to buy an NFT within on Cyber, like there's a modal that pops up and it's very 2D, and I always hated it, but it was a nice placeholder. But within the next 2 weeks, we have like a way to do it fully immersively without ever feeling like you're on a 2D website, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And also with credit cards, can you purchase things with credit cards? Because so many people are afraid of crypto at this moment.
Yeah, totally. We have a big partnership coming in that we're going to be announcing. We're talking to partners right now, and hopefully it gets sealed. But yeah, I think there's going to be some like our focus this year is very much around like making sure that we can be more welcoming to other people. Like right now, in order to interact with on Cyber, you have to be within Web3. Like, we've never done Google login or whatnot. We'll never do Google login or whatnot. But there are definitely other ways to onboard people that don't have a Web3 wallet, whether that's with credit card payments or with just like login methods. So one of the big focuses this year for sure.
I think that's wonderful, and I am sorry to hog the mic here, but I just wanted to add that, not only do we need to purchase assets like branded items or art or collectibles in the metaverse, but services. Like, I actually think that we should go into a service economy and an experience economy in the metaverse. And my focus with our startup has been to create the kinds of experiences that will bring in the mainstream into the metaverse, so that we're expanding Web3 into the mainstream. Because eventually the metaverse will just become a digital layer of experiences that everyone experiences through AR glasses or VR, what have you. The metaverse is just going to become a part of our daily lives. And so, education, especially health and wellness right now with the mental health, crisis that we are all experiencing around the world, access to immediate mental health therapies through art that is actually scientifically proven to mitigate anxiety can be a wonderful solution in the metaverse for immediate, therapy for anyone, whether it's children, families. Anytime something happens to you, you can go put on your VR goggles, or you go onto your browser, or you put on your AR goggles eventually, and you can seek help through therapy, group therapy, join groups, speak, share, be vulnerable, be part of communities, or you can be immersed in an experience that is part of an NFT program that you enter in a metaverse within a metaverse. You're in a metaverse space, and then you can choose almost like a Netflix what you want to experience, and then that experience pops up, and that is the DApp that we have been working on at Zero, so that we're ready for providing that kind of content sort of player. And I think that's also important for storytelling.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think I 100% think that immersive spaces have like can have this soothing effect that could be very well used for mental health. I know I have like a few spaces in my repertoire that I go visit whenever I feel more anxious or have like a little breakdown. So 100%. I think it's just up to us in the space to start like looking out of ourselves and like try to like get people into the space and why we fell in love with it. I think that all these immersive technologies resonate a lot with people in the Web3 space, because in general, like, we're all early adopters. We're here because we like to experiment new things, and but immersiveness and immersive experiences are not constrained to just Web3. And I think it's cool that we managed to build like some of the coolest corners of the immersive web within the Web3 space. But I think it's time for us to like start looking outside of that space and welcome people more. I think the Web3 space has a really hard time welcoming normies. Like the way we even say normies is quite telling. So yeah, I think it's just up to us to start communicating the right messages. And I love what you're saying, because it's exactly about that. It's about showing what this can do for the everyday person, not just for the crypto punk holder or the crypto dick butt holder or whatnot. Like
Awesome. Yeah, just to make sure that we have enough time to move on for the individual questions. I want to make sure we get to that. So moving on, the next individual question is going to be to Catherine. So you were formerly on the Decentraland team, and you were involved in the creation of some of the earliest architecture in Decentraland. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about what it was like to be involved in those early implementations of metaverse architecture and how it led to starting Low Poly Models World.
Hey, great question. So it has been, and it still is, and I think it will continue to be the most exciting thing ever. The difference between when we first started in the space and now is just incredible, both in the sense of how much is out there and how creative and how much development there's been, both, you know, the platform, the community, the people, you know, myself personally as well. It's been a really exciting ride for sure. So it actually started with low poly models, funnily enough. And like any startup, you know, there's bills to pay. It's not so easy. And I think in that first year or so, I was doing a lot of kind of commissions for the foundation and so on. And that then led to them offering me a job in the Decentraland Foundation, which was just the most amazing experience, really. A great opportunity to learn and to spend time with some really amazing people. And from there, I guess, as we all know, in 2020, crypto and the metaverse space just really started to come alive. And it was then a point where I couldn't do both at the same time. There was not enough time in the day to be on the foundation team and also be running low poly models. So I had that difficult conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Are you guys able to hear me real quick? My audio cut out.
Yes.
I am. I think,
Okay.
I think everybody's audio might cut out.
Yeah, mine cut out.
Okay, Catherine, were you finished speaking? I just want to make sure before we move on. Okay. So next question is to Ryan at OnCyber. So the model that you guys have at OnCyber differs from most other metaverses in that you guys don't use a land map where you can buy plots. So why did you decide to move away from that traditional land model and instead sell fully baked metaverse spaces that people can customize?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the whole principle and the whole concept of OnCyber is a very bottom up type of product. Like I started looking at the space like early 2020, I think, and I come from the art world, and I saw what NFTs could do for creatives around the world. It took me a few months to like really decide whether I wanted to go full in or not. And the whole purpose has been like there is a lack of curation tools for creatives like on the in Web3. I think at the time like the two big players were crypto voxels and Decentraland, and so the only way to get into Decentraland or crypto voxel at the time was to go and buy land and have a crypto wallet, and like you would need to have money and be able to buy land and hire an architect and do X and Y and Z, and it was just very complicated. And exactly to my point before, it was not very welcoming to the whole mass of people we saw coming early 2021. So I kind of saw that like if this revolutionary technology was to take on, people would need like a tool to be able to visualize the culture of the space in a way that's more telling than a 2D way, and then in a way that's more specific than a general metaverse platform. And so we built OnCyber as like a quick to use like tool for people to just curate NFTs and culture in immersive spaces. And so that was early. We launched early 2021, and in the end, directly like started taking on. And I didn't really understand the point of land really at the time. Like for me, the web was something that was so empowering that limiting people for a number of square meters or whatnot was a nice way to create scarcity and to monetize. But I thought there could be something different. And then I started thinking and scratched my head and so, and um, I think it became clear that I thought scarcity, of course, needed to happen by default. And what better scarcity than an architect's talent, time, creativity that is directly induced into their design, and to sell them like pieces of art instead of just creating land out of thin air. And so the first experiment I did with this, we sold the first gallery called Genesis for 0.11 ETH, which I never thought would sell out ever. It was really just to say that it was very much an experiment. It wasn't something that I thought could work, or like selling prefab models. I thought people were degens in the space and wanted to buy pieces of land, and that was just the meta, and that's how what people were expecting. But no, like we launched this, and it was an instant sellout, and people got really happy, like really like the model of like not having to rely on land, but rather just to collect artists for their art and their creativity, and being able to like just buy a piece of architecture the same way you would buy a painting, the same way a lot of people do, go and contract the biggest architects to build uh, pretty much pieces of art for them to enjoy in a physical manner. So it was really just a matter of like testing things out, and seeing if they work, and it's still the case today. Like it's all a very experimental project, a bit later and we're a bit more mature, but like I think we are always going to keep that spirit of trying things out in the wild and seeing if they work. So yeah, this is pretty much how it came about.
Awesome, thank you. Really, really like that perspective. So next question is to Daniel, Polygonal Minds. So Polygonal Mind has been incorporating gamification into architectural design through unique experiences like Tomb Chaser and Megacube. Can you tell us a little bit more about how these ideas came to be?
Uh, how these ideas came to be. I mean, they all started in a crazy room, just like a random idea, especially the Megacube. The Megacube was an idea that we have to make an interactive game or experience for Decentraland where we could gather like many people at the same time. One of the things that we see in Decentraland is like you have places where you go, where you grind, and that's pretty much it. And back in the day, Megacube, most of those spaces didn't even exist in Decentraland. So one of the things that I was thinking is like taking games from, just getting inspired from other games and trying to get them into the Web3 space, in a similar way that game developers in mobile industry have been taking web games into the mobile and making them very successful. So one of the first experience that made like mobile gaming slash iPads, iPhones very famous was a game developed by Peter Molyneux, which is like a legendary game developer. And he created a game called Curiosity, What's Inside the Cube. And the game was about mining a cube, and everybody in the world could play with their iPhone or with their iPad. And the cube was under that cube there was another cube, right? And there were 50 layers of the cube, and it lasted 6 months to discover what was inside the cube. And I thought that was a really good idea to get people interested into doing something, gathering the community to do something together and to discover what's inside the cube. So we thought how to integrate that into Decentraland, and then that's how Megacube got shape into it. And we thought like, wow, what if we can we get a cube working like this in Decentraland? And we tried out, it worked. And then we thought like, what if instead of just whatever picture we want to show, we start choosing and get communities involved into the game. And that's how we started to talk with different communities and different projects in the NFT space and crypto space. And the final idea was that Megacube is a huge ass cube inside Decentraland where everybody can just go there and mine. And each layer is going to be with 50 layers, right? And each layer is going to be sponsored by a different NFT projects. And the people who are mining that layer are going to be finding NFTs of those specific projects. At the end of the day, it turned out to be like a huge marketing event where everybody is giving away NFTs and people is getting to know these communities and it's getting to know these brands. We did Megacube 1 back in 2020, back in 2021, sorry. And we did Megacube 2 last year, and we are going to be doing Megacube 3 this year. We've been improving a lot. We've been adding like gamification systems for people to be kept, like player progression, stuff like that. So it makes the gaming less frustrating, because the first one was super frustrating, right? You could be mining for hours and not finding anything, and you could be mining just one click and find like a huge ass NFT. The great thing about this is like one thing I'm forgetting to say is like the last person who mines the last queue for the last layer gets a huge pot of at least one NFT from all the sponsors. So if there's 20 sponsors or 30 sponsors, this person is going to be getting at least one NFT from them. So the big the big prize is very interesting, and we saw like we could get around 5 to 6,000 players into Central to just play one game, and we can get around 3,000 people stay online for over 22 hours playing the game constantly, right? And that's something that is very difficult to do in the Central Land. At least we discovered that it's about the timeline. It's like, if this is going to end, right? If this was open for the whole year, we didn't get that much attention from people. But since this is an event that can end at any moment, once the MegaCube starts, it depends on how many players are getting, how quick the game, how they much improve, and we don't really know when it's going to be ending. The first MegaCube, for example, it was 1 week, and the second MegaCube was 3 days. The last day we got like a raid of people from Twitch from Brazil, and we got all our Discord became like Brazil colors. It was very funny. The last few hours became very crazy.
Awesome. Can't wait to see what V3 looks like.
I will be like a cube. I'm sure about it.
Yeah. So next question is to Yasmin. So
Yes.
So Voxel Architects has completed some incredible projects for different metaverses like Sandbox, Decentraland, and Somnium Space. What have been some of your favorite projects you've worked on in the past, and what are you working on right now?
So right now we're working on designing a sandbox experience under Elvis Presley's IP. So users and fans of Elvis are in for a major treat. But we're also working at the same time in a project in Mona with the artist Tom Sachs and the multidisciplinary team. Unfortunately, I'm not able to disclose more information, but it's going to be very exciting. So stay close to see the results. And we have been building in various metaverses, from Decentraland, Sandbox, Somnium Space, Voxels, the formerly Crypto Voxels, and just to name a few most important projects would be like the Sotheby's, one of the biggest auction houses. They wanted a detailed reproduction of their site in London, where they host artists such as Bored Ape Yacht Club, Banksy, and Jay-Z, and so on. Another project would be to go on the cultural side, Frida Kahlo's Red House, which actually tells the stories of Frida Kahlo's earliest years, and it addresses some sensitive topics like gender equality, women's rights, and so on. So you should definitely go on and visit that experience. Also, we have a project with Tom Sachs, Rocket Factory, one of the artists we're also working with right now. And this is an NFT manufacturing plant. One major building that we also did in Decentraland is the headquarters of Consensus, which is the leading Ethereum software company. And this is, I have to say, one of the biggest buildings in Decentraland. It's on an area of 160 by 160 meters, and it's massive, basically. We also worked recently with Party Degenerates to build a top club in Decentraland to host concerts and major performance, and this is called Unpaired. And to mention a few projects also in Sandbox, we worked on Olive X, which is a fitness company and digital health. So basically what we did with this project is fitness gamification. And also Hellgate, which is quite an entertaining thriller experience. So, I mean, I definitely recommend that you visit these experiences to get an understanding of what they actually are. Because in our team, we focus like to address also one of the earlier questions, the challenges that we face in metaverse architecture, I think one of the major challenges is the fact that we have to translate our designs in different metaverses. So, for instance, in Sandbox, there are a lot of limitations, but at the same time, we have a huge height that we can build on. So then we have to approach the space vertically, since we're able to build underground and on a huge height. Yeah, I think I covered Decentraland and Sandbox, but these are just a few projects because I could be talking a lot since we built more than 100 projects, just for a rough estimation. And also in Voxels, we built the Real Vision headquarters, which is an art gallery. And House of M, for instance, that is very luxurious Baroque mansion that hosts expensive artwork. Yeah, so I mean, we're really excited to develop new projects, and looking forward to share the experiences with Elvis Presley and Tom Sachs that is currently ongoing.
Very cool. Especially excited for the Elvis one. You're definitely going to be looking out for that.
Yeah, well, we're working really hard to do the King of Rock and Roll justice, because it speaks a lot about his life, I think. And it's a very popular topic these days with the movie that was released. Yeah, so I think it's going to be quite fun.
Awesome. All right. So next question is to Krista. So you may most famously be known for selling the Mars House NFT for a record of $500,000. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that experience was like and what you think the future holds for architecture in the metaverse?
Oh, yeah. So I created the Mars House during the height of the COVID crisis. And that was March of 2020, which seems a lifetime ago, right? And the purpose of and the intention of this place was to be a place of healing and meditativeness and escape, my dream home in the metaverse that I can visit in VR. So that is why we developed it on Unreal Engine. And at the time, architecture schools were just beginning to adapt Unreal Engine as a viable tool for creating renderings. And so, upon that experiment, I created around, 4 different meditative design projects that I developed during that period. And then that was by May of 2020, we finished. And then December came, and I was very interested in learning more about blockchain and Bitcoin. I became very curious, and because I was very concerned about the overprinting of our, the fiat currencies, and so I learned about blockchain for art. I Googled it. NFTs popped up. I was elated to know that there is a blockchain, architecture for art, and so I immediately clicked on that, and then I discovered that there were galleries, Super Rare, Known Origin, Maker's Place, and I immediately applied to Known Origin and to Super Rare as an artist, and Super Rare accepted me and whitelisted me for February. Known Origin unfortunately rejected my application, and so I, as soon as I was onboarded, we had a meeting with Zach from Super Rare, Zach Yanger, and the first group of artists, and it was so exciting because it was like so it was so revolutionary. I felt that vibe, and the question that I asked Zach was, so when collectors purchase the art, what do they do with it? Where do they keep the art? Do they show it on screens in their homes, which is normally how I show my art, because I came from the art world, where I show my art on the screens. And he said no. Normally they just keep them, see them on their phones or their browsers on their computers, or they actually build a gallery in CryptoVoxels, Sandbox, Decentraland, all these different early platforms. That was before On Cyber, I think. And and then they hang their 2D JPEGs and NFT JPEGs from their wallets in the galleries. And I was like, wow, that is interesting. So as I explored that further, I realized that NFTs were very much in the nascent stage, just JPEGs and MP4 files. And I thought, my goodness, truly uh, the true possibility of NFTs is to become 3D digital assets that are powered by AI. I mean, that's the future. And I thought, wow, we have to really sort of push the envelope a bit. So I decided to mint the Mars House. I wanted to ask the question to the community or the world: is the world ready for the metaverse? Because I had this 3D asset of the house, and I thought, well, why not mint that as an asset? And the owner would be able to upload, or I could retranslate the files, whatever file format is necessary to adapt to whichever land they own in whatever metaverse platform. And so that was the plan. I launched it in March 14th, 2021. And it took about 3 days before AOI suddenly made bids, and we connected. He basically purchased my entire collection of art, really, in super rare. And then he put a bid in for Mars House, and we had a conversation. And he asked me, he said, Krista, so is this truly a house for the metaverse? I mean, can I have the 3D files, and is it the house, like the 3D house? Is it what I think it is? I said, yes. It will be the first NFT house that would be sold in history. And so that's how we sort of made history.
Incredible story. I didn't realize that you had not intentionally created that as an NFT, and that it came about later. So yeah, that's super, super cool.
Yeah, but it all just sort of happened serendipitously.
Nice. So then
And
our
now
final.
the future.
Oh,
Sorry, your final.
No, yeah,
Sorry, the
go
second
ahead.
half of the question.
Yeah.
Where is it going? I believe that definitely a creator's economy. I believe that the architecture. We are all going to be co-creating. I think there's going to be a lot of spaces that it will become more normal for people to have a space of their own, or for their own personal purposes, especially with the advent of AR goggles. Once AR goggles become ubiquitous, and I believe that that's going to really eclipse the VR adoption. I believe that people will have immersive experiences for companies, for school, for whatever social engagement. I think that these spaces will be essential to place context around community, and people will learn. People will have healthcare, mental health care, all kinds of meaningful interactions that add value to their lives in the metaverse. And I think the architecture will facilitate that. But also, if you truly consider the future of how we are going to transform our communities with AR, we can basically beautify and install AR skins in our world, the physical world, with AR layer. And that will be also another future step of the future of metaverse architecture as a layer interactive, whether it is purposefully integrated with the architecture project, or just a layer that is created by artists or architects to beautify spaces. And we can all live in a beautiful world in real life through this technology, and I believe that is going to make the world better.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're almost at the top of the hour here, so I think we probably have time for one more question to Santi. So Santi, the Legionnaire backgrounds and the Satoshi's Legions game can both use programmatically varied components to modify the environments. Can you tell us a little bit about how that and how you were using the latest technology to customize architecture within the Satoshiverse?
Sure, I'm going to be quick about this so we don't run out of time. So basically, in the Satoshiverse lore, the city became huge because everyone migrated to them after the pandemic, and we really wanted to create this sense of magnitude within the game. we really wanted the player to feel like he was exploring a brand new part of the city each time they played the game. So we create a library of prefab city blocks that are called upon each time the player spawns. And then we have an extra layer where different props in the world and materials randomly spawn on the world or replace assets that already exist. And because of Unreal, and with the new technology of nanite and all these little things that help us sort of populate the world with even with crazy polygon counts, we really could give the world a ton of depth and a ton of details. So one of our priorities within the game was to tell a story using architecture as a tool. Part of the reasons that we chose Unreal was exactly to be able to use tools like nanite to tell this story with as much detail as we could, and in that way we could combine using this sort of layered approach where we have prefab stuff combined with programmatically generated stuff. We combine a curated experience that helps us a ton from the storytelling telling perspective, with a random one where different props and materials are incorporated in the world to make the experience unique, but also conserve the narrative for the game. So I don't want to continue because I think we run out of time.
Thanks, Santi. You know, it's we are closing up on the hour, so we will wrap up. But before we do, I just wanted to announce that every week we do a giveaway for those here in attendance. I know a lot of people, you know, listen to this after because they're all over the world. But for those of you who are here, we're giving away another 8 Army avatar from our collection. And so today, the winner is Michael Littman. It's M Littman at M Littman. Congratulations. Just shoot us a DM and we will get you your 8 Army avatar. But to wrap things up, you know, I usually talk a lot more on these things, but this one, you know, was just so awesome to listen to the all the different perspectives that we have from really truly leaders in the metaverse architecture, you know, space. And I'm so glad that we could get all of you together and hear your perspectives. You know, I think this was super informative, and I'd love to stay in touch with all of you going forward. I think that for me, one of the most important things about the metaverse, and specifically the decentralized metaverse, is that we're building together. You know, there's going to be closed systems. There's going to be, you know, corporations that do some awesome stuff that we're going to really enjoy. But when it comes to this kind of niche that we are really pushing forward, I think it's so important to continue to bring people together and to really explore ideas and be open to new ideas. So, you know, really, really cool to have so many different perspectives on this call. Thank you to all of the speakers who joined, and also to everybody in the community who joined. If you're not familiar or not already following the speakers, please go do follow them. All of them, you know, were asked to be on this panel because they truly are doing really cool stuff in the metaverse, in all different sorts of you know, areas. So if you are an architect or if you are interested as a community member, please do go and follow them. So with that, we'll open it up for any final words and wrap things up.
So I would like to add something, if it's possible, to what Krista said about beautifying the world around us through the technology and metaverse. And I wanted to add that we can also improve the way we are currently designing in our physical world in the future. Because I was researching a lot this topic about the digital clones, the fact that we have models that resemble real life buildings. And the thing with that is that these models can monitor real time traffic patterns. They can simulate conditions, like how the building would perform in certain conditions, and that will help us manage our built environment. So I think the metaverse may also become a tool for the future of urban planning, and because it can be used as this test bed for future cities, testing scenarios, and basically allowing the digital twins to learn from the data. So I think in the future, we'll be walking around the cities and we won't just see the buildings, but we'll also see data. And I was also thinking, imagine how crazy it would be that you would be able to replicate, for instance, let's say an ancient Roman or Greek city for educational purposes, aside from that. So maybe it's an idealistic view of architecture and metaverse, but I think the metaverse could serve as a catalyst for addressing global issues, like climate change, for instance. And it can also be used to engage communities in different cities in decision making before actually building something in the physical world. And there's examples of governments and cities already doing this. For instance, virtual Singapore or projects of this sort. So yeah, I just felt the need to add the fact that I think the metaverse, the architecture in metaverse will have a lot of possibilities and will open a lot of educational and potentially life-changing situations for real life.
Amazing. No, I couldn't agree more. Oh.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. I think part of the coolest parts of the future of architecture within the metaverse is for sure clones. I think that's part of where this space is heading as well. I think you're right. I couldn't agree with you more. Sorry, Nick, I stopped you.
No, I was just writing you an email about cloning me in the metaverse and seeing if you could get on that ASAP.
Sure, why not? You can contact us. You
Nice.
can contact us, and we can build anything in any metaverse you want. So
amazing. I love it. Well, this has been awesome. Like I said before, if no one else has any last words, then we will wrap this up. But again, thank you all so much for joining, and we'll be doing this again next week with another cool topic. So please do join us and follow and learn more about all the guests. So appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing what you guys all continue to do in the metaverse and talking to all of you soon.
Bye, guys. Great to meet you.
Bye.
great to meet you. Thank you.